What's up, guys? We're going to take the 100th anniversary Charger for a little cruise and see how the aFe power cold air intake performs on the highway and a few stop and idle situations. But before we get started, let's take a quick look under the hood. Okay, so here's the RK Sport Ram Air hood. The air is going to come in through the vent here. And it's going to get directed through the tunnel, and it's going to blow down onto the filter of the cold air intake. So here is the aFe carbon fiber cold air intake. See, it's got a nice big cone on it. Suck in that cold air. And here's the underside of the Ram Air hood. Here's a tunnel. Air tunnel goes right over when the hood shut, will be right over the filter, for the cold air intake filter. So there's one thing going against this cold air intake for this test. The Ram Air hood here is aftermarket, and so the underside of it is not in the same, doesn't have the same shape as the stock hood. So we're not getting a good seal around the edge of this box here. So I'm gonna have to do some modifications in order to get a tight seal so I can get the most out of this cold air intake system. All right, guys, let's fire this thing up. Okay, so it's 32 degrees out. We got an intake air temperature of 41 degrees, 2:51 p.m. All right, we're gonna let this thing warm up for about 5 minutes and see where the air intake temperature is at. Temperature outside is 46 degrees, and the intake temperature is 54 degrees, so we're 8 degrees above ambient. I also have a K&N drop-in filter in the air box. All right, we've been sitting here for 5 minutes in idle, and the intake air temperature is at 55 degrees. So we've been sitting for 5 minutes at idle, and we're at 23 degrees above ambient. So let's get this thing on the road and see what happens. Alright, so we've stopped at several stoplights, and if I remember right, I think the highest the intake air temperature got was 70, which is kind of high but not real super bad, considering that the box surrounding the filter is not sealed off right now due to the difference from the stock hood and the aftermarket ram air hood, which is allowing the hot air from the engine to kind of seep in there and get sucked up by the filter. So right now, getting a little hungry, so we're going to go through the runs of drive-thru and see how it warms up going through the drive-thru. Runs
Thank you for choosing AZEP. How can we help you?
Yeah, I need a number 2 with a large fry and a large iced tea.
Absolutely. Anything else for you today?
That'll be it.
Indeed. 796. We'll see you at the window. Thank you.
So sitting here in the drive-thru, it's starting to climb pretty good now. 56 degrees above ambient. Alright, I'm gonna pay for my food now, so we'll check it out in a few minutes. Alright, so we're climbing pretty good now. Now we're up to 113 degrees for the air intake temp. Just going through the drive-thru. So we're gonna get back on the highway here and see how fast she drops down. At 120 now. Back on the highway. In some of that cold air. We're already down to 75 degrees. I've been cruising for a few minutes at 60 miles an hour. We just hit a stoplight, and after a few minutes on the highway, we're down to 61 degrees for our intake temps, and climbing. Green light. We've been cruising down the highway at 65 miles an hour for about 10 minutes now, and we've cooled down to 43 degrees on our intake temp, which puts us at 11 over ambient. So that concludes the testing on the aFe cold air intake. It does pretty good. On the highway, it's about the same as the stock airbox. But once you stop for any amount of time, that intake air starts to heat up pretty quick. But I can't say this is a totally fair test for the aFe cold air intake due to the fact that surrounding around the filter is not totally sealed off from the heat inside the engine bay. So I'm gonna try to do some modifying to that surrounding to get it sealed up and protect that filter from the heat coming off the engine a little better, and hopefully I can do a video of that in the near future and see if that helps out any. So that's it, guys. There's the cold air intake, aFe cold air intake testing. Have a good one.